All right, what about vehicles on the road? Gets a little bit more challenging to have a vehicle on the road, but let's just follow our rules. All lines are vertical to a vanishing point. Let's start with something simple like a semi-truck or a bus, something that's more of a cube or a rectangular prism. And again, we're just going to start with a vertical line. Kind of a theme here. We start with a vertical line. And then we're going to connect that vertical line to both vanishing points. VP1, a little ways. And it's okay if it goes over the sidewalk. It's just showing that it's overlapping a little bit. Vertical line here. I'm going to have to maybe connect this a little bit better. That is one of the fronts of my vehicle so far. Then I'm going to take these corners closest to VP2 and connect them to vanishing point 2. Like that. This kind of mirrors 1 point perspective, but we're still in 2 point, so we're still following the rules. That one's hard to see. Going to VP1 back here now, to the back end of there, and a vertical line down. And this is where I oopsed, and I should have had an eraser because I have an extra little line hanging off there, so excuse me for that little line. But here's the top of a truck, or this could be the trailer on a truck. And we're gonna keep going now and add the front section to it. So we kind of have a framework of a space. Now I can show you a little bit later how we can manipulate that to make it look more like a sports car or something other than just a box. But for right now, let's finish this up with the front end. This is a very simple version. If I cut the front of that in half to VP1, just like we have something sticking off the building, if we have things going to the opposite vanishing point, like these lines here, sticking off the front, it kind of looks like little arms hanging off the front of that. This will be the top end of the vehicle right here. And I can extend this line as well and make a vertical line between these 2 points. And go over to VP1 and a vertical line to connect these two. And it's a transparent cube right now, or a transparent rectangle. But hopefully you can kind of see how this sticks off the front. We would have maybe a little window here for the driver to look out and the passenger and who's ever inside of this truck. Here's a little window. This is a transparent cube that you could fill in and color in. And go from there. Now, what about the wheels? All right, we cannot just draw circles for the wheels because a circle in linear perspective, as it goes further off into the vanishing point, just like the letters, it needs to get smaller as it gets further away from us. So it's going to squash the circle into more of an ellipse. So what I like to do, this isn't everybody, but I like to draw kind of like a guideline on where my, and maybe I'll do it in gray here, where my wheels could line up like that. So if the front wheel is closer to us, it's going to be bigger, and the back wheel is further away from us, it's going to be a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to draw an ellipse here, and this is where drawing in marker gets to be a little bit tricky because I may have to adjust that ellipse shape. Notice how the back wheel is smaller. Not really, it's not smaller, but visually it's smaller. And then to show it looks a little bit more three-dimensional, kind of like how we learned how to draw a cylinder in 1 point perspective, we're going to take the bottom of it, line it up to the opposite vanishing point, and connect it. And then this makes it look like it's a 3D wheel, kind of, this is the inside wheel wall here of that to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. So that's how you can draw wheels. Of course, you could add more or make them a little bit more fancy, but this is a basic version of a truck or a vehicle. Now, let's say you wanted to do something a little bit more fancy. I recommend just drawing yourself a cube for guidelines. So I'm going to do it with gray. So I'm going to make myself a cube by starting with a vertical line and connecting it to both vanishing point 1 and vanishing point 2. Just to give myself a box to work within. Oh man, here we go. Vertical, connect that there. This is going to be a long vehicle. Didn't mean to make it that long. But maybe you can see it a little bit better now. I'm going to connect all these corners to vanishing point 2 now. Again, it's okay to go over the sidewalk because it's not technically on the sidewalk, it's just in front of it, so we're overlapping our lines by going in front of the sidewalk there. Connect to vanishing point 1. Connect this back corner to vanishing point 2. Again, all lines are vertical or to a vanishing point. I haven't made any crooked lines. I haven't made any angle lines. So here's kind of like a box. This is a guideline. And if you wanted to get a little bit fancier, and I could maybe even have a smaller guideline, again, kind of like we're drawing the semi-truck, having some lines coming out from here to make the front of it pop out. Oh man, did you see that? I just botched that up. Hopefully you guys catch that and call me out. Send me an email saying, hey, I saw your mistake, Mrs. Arneson. Here's the front of it. I'm just gonna finish this. And coming down. Back to vanishing point 1. Another mistake. All right, so here's kind of guidelines, and I did it in gray because now if you wanted to get fancier with pencil, this is how you can kind of create a more sports-like vehicle. Using the guidelines, this is the area in which you can draw. You'd see the side of the vehicle, and then the slope for the front of the car, and the back of it, and this is kind of how you can freehand, so you know, this is one of my exceptions to the rule, lines are vertical to a vanishing point. I'm freehanding the shape of the side of a car right now on the side of this guideline box. And then I have the side of it, I can see where the front would end up by kind of making a mirrored version of that into the back to see how I can make a different type of car with different body lines to it and a different hood and windshield and make it a little bit more fancy, add a spoiler on the back, still doing my wheels the same way like I did on the other side. But within the guidelines that I have, I can start to create a different type of car, whether it's a sports car, whether it's a VW Beetle, whether it's a UFO, whatever kind of car you come up with. If you do it within this square guidelines rectangle, it's going to be more technically accurate and three-dimensional looking than if you were to just freehand draw a vehicle. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Within the guidelines, you can kind of create a vehicle that looks 3D. Let me know if you have questions.